Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Superintendent Hoffmeister and the Oklahoma State Department of Education, welcome to today's Federal Programs Lunch and Learn. Today, we are going to chat about Title I school-wide and targeted assistance plans. And as always, if you have a question as we are going along, please feel free to pop a question in the chat or come off mute and ask. Do not be afraid to interrupt. We will be happy to assist you. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share the PowerPoint in the chat. It has a few helpful links in it. The first is just a copy of those blank templates for the school-wide and targeted assistance plans. And we are just going to walk through these step by step and hopefully help you out in completing those as Title I applications are due soon. So I hope that if you have a principal that's working on completing these plans, that you've invited them today, or we can share the recording so that they can get this information as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about the structure of the plans. So on that the first page of those school-wide and targeted assistance plans is just the basic information. It asks for you for the school year, for the last review date, has some district information and some site information. And then depending on which plan, there are 5 or 6 sections. And each of those sections is kind of an outline of the ESSA requirement for that section, as well as a description of the plan requirements that you can kind of use as a rubric, and then a text box for the answers. And so the template is pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and just click on one so that we are aware a little bit of what we're looking at. So let me stop sharing this screen and I will share that screen. So this is the school-wide plan. And you can see that district information on that first page and the school information, and then the instructions. And then after that, the pages are pretty much the same kind of template. There is a description of the requirements from ESSA and a checkbox that's very important for you to check. And this is one thing that our reviewers are looking for, is that this box is checked. That is the certification from the school principal that you're kind of meeting those intent and purposes from ESSA. There are 3 different rubric explanations here. There's a meet expectations, a developing, and a does not meet expectations. We're going to focus on that meet expectations area and how you might get that highest level when you complete your plans. And then the last page for each area, so there's a setup like that for each section of the plan. It's just a text box for you to write in your narrative answer. So we're going to walk through the 5 different parts of the school-wide plan and the 6 different parts of the targeted assistance plan together, but this is just the general template. So we're going to hop back into our PowerPoint here. Okay, do you guys see the PowerPoint or the
preview screen?
I think I might have clicked the wrong. Let me go back. Okay, there we go. Are we seeing the PowerPoint now? Awesome. Okay. So just to overview the different areas of the plan, this is the school-wide plan sections and the targeted assistance sections aligned, and they're very similar with a few strategic extra things in the targeted assistance plan. So the first part of your school-wide plan is that community and stakeholder involvement, and how that is different from the targeted assistance plan is with targeted assistance, you're focusing on a specific group. So it's a parent and family engagement portion. Needs assessment for both. In addition to the needs assessment, the targeted assistance is going to require student identification. That's unique for targeted assistance. There is also a student transition piece in the targeted assistance plan that's a little unique, but the plan strategies, those sections are very similar. Coordination integration sections, those are similar, and then the evaluation and plan revision are similar in both plans. And so we're just going to walk through each of those areas now. So the first portion we're going to walk through is the parent and community stakeholder involvement. And remember, in both plans, there's going to be a checkbox that you're going to want the principal to check to ensure that you are meeting these intent and purposes of ESSA. And then let's talk about the meeting expectations portion for this section. So we're going to read through these meet expectations requirements. So one would be that there are specific strategies to increase family and community stakeholder involvement, particularly among those who represent the most at-risk students based upon the results of the needs assessment. So you're going to want to have specific strategies that you're using to get people involved, okay? The next portion is the parent and community stakeholders those that are involved, you're looking for them to reflect a demographic composition of the school. So when you are involving parents, you want to get a good representation of your group, especially those most at-risk students. And decision makers are in a broad spectrum of school disciplines, including the development and monitoring of the Title I school-wide plan. So when you talk about your Title I committee, you want to make sure you check lots of different boxes, and that group is representative of your community as a whole. The next section is that the school vision and mission for student success are collaboratively developed based on the beliefs and values of the school community, including families and community stakeholders. And then the last one is that the Title I school-wide plan, as well as all communication regarding its development, evaluation, and revision process are available in languages and formats that are accessible to every family and community stakeholder of the school. So you want to make sure that all the information that you are providing is accessible to everyone. So when we are going, or when you are going to write this portion of your plan, it's just one text box and you're providing a narrative. So I'm just going to give you a few strategies to kind of help you meet all of the requirements. The first, just like with any good essay prompt, if you can rewrite the prompt in your response, it makes it easier to identify that you have met all those sections. So we are not looking for an exhaustive explanation. It can be short and to the point, but if you can identify where you have met that criteria in your response, and even restate that question using the same verbiage that's in the question, would be fine. So we're also not trying to catch you with a vocabulary test. So if you wanted to restate these questions and just point out so for the first one, what specific strategies are you using? So you could say, our school, and you could put the name of the school, is implementing these specific strategies to increase family and community stakeholder involvement. Okay, so you can restate each of these areas with the details that are specific to your site. Are there any questions right now about that parent and community stakeholder involvement, or any additional insights to offer? Okay, we are going to talk about parent and family engagement, which is kind of the little twist on that stakeholder involvement for targeted assistance schools. The difference here is really that you are targeting a specific group, okay? And so those families that you've identified, or those students that you've identified for targeted assistance, that parent group is probably going to have specific needs and specific strategies that are going to work with them. So you're going to want to ensure that your parent and family engagement piece is specific to that group. Okay. All right, so that is the first section in those school-wide or targeted assistance plans, and we are going to move on to the comprehensive needs assessment. So again, that checkbox that's at the top of the plan, or the section of that plan, that section of the plan is really important to check. And then let's talk about the requirements of the comprehensive needs assessment. So we want to ensure that you are using a variety of data. So that might include performance data or testing data, non-performance data like attendance, discipline, and that you have a process to go through that data. So you want to include a detailed analysis of the performance and non-performance data. You're going to examine student, teacher, school, and community strengths and needs, school leadership in collaboration with families and community stakeholders. You're going to want to identify a manageable number of priorities at the right level of magnitude and aligned with that needs assessment for school improvement, and then evidence that shows that your plan and the continued cycle of improvement has improved or will improve student outcomes. So the important thing about a needs assessment, so one, yes, you should be doing a needs assessment at your site. We do not determine the type of needs assessment or a specific needs assessment that you should use. So in this portion, you might talk about what kind of needs assessment you use, what kind of data that you've used, how you have the process you've gone through to evaluate that data, and then the decisions that you made about your school-wide plan through that needs assessment. So there's a question in the chat that says, does this section need to be updated every year, or can we use the CNA template to update the annual information? So this portion of your plan should be updated every year. So you should be conducting a needs assessment at the site level every year for your school-wide plan. So this is at the site level, not the district level. And that you should be evaluating new data every year. So you should go through that process at the site level every year. Okay, so in this portion, again, feel like you could restate the prompt kind of and talk about, so on this portion includes the variety of data. You could put in our site comprehensive needs assessment, we use the following types of data. We use the following data sources. We did a few months ago, a 3 or 4 part series on comprehensive needs assessment. If we probably need to share that one more frequently than or more quickly than we've gotten the other ones up. But it was a very in-depth series on each stage of the comprehensive needs assessment. So that might be beneficial. Okay, there's Matt's comment. That's good. All right, do we have any questions right now about the needs assessment? So this is a site needs assessment. It needs to be done every year so that you're updating your plan to take in new data that's available, and that this plan and the needs that you've identified through this needs assessment align with your school-wide plan. So the ways that you're choosing to spend your Title I funds is aligned with the needs that you've identified through the comprehensive needs assessment. Okay, so the portion in targeted assistance that's just a little bit different is that it has student identification in it. So on these meets expectations, there we go. So you're gonna, whoa. Hold on just a second. There we go. So in addition to the needs assessment, identifying the needs of your school, part of a target assistance plan is that you have a process to identify those students that you are going to target at your school for those Title I expenditures. So again, you are going to want to have a well-defined process that's currently being implemented to identify those students experiencing difficulty mastering those standards. And then your school has discretion of kind of identifying which population at your school meets that criteria, but you just need to have a good process. And then the rest of this portion is kind of similar, only the data that you're using is probably going to be more specific to that targeted assistance group. So the students identified for those target assistance services represent the populations that are most at risk for failure. And so the data and decisions that you're going to make through your needs assessment are going to be specific to that group of students. Okay. Do we have any questions right now about this needs assessment portion or identification with targeted assistance. I didn't say this at the beginning, but I will. This is as good time of any. There is, if you are operating currently under a targeted assistance program, there is a waiver for you to be able to operate as a school-wide program. So if the poverty of a site is 35% or above, you are eligible to operate as a school-wide program. If it is less than 35% or less than your district average, you can qualify for a waiver to operate as a school-wide school. So this you wouldn't have to identify a specific group. You could use the funds for the overall implementation and improvement of the academics of your entire school. Does a school-wide Title I do the targeted assistance plan? No, a school-wide school is, you're only going to have one plan per site, and it's going to be based on whether the school is a school-wide school or a targeted assistance school. So only one plan per site. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into the next section, which is the school-wide plan strategies or the targeted assistance strategies. Okay, so here's the school-wide plan strategies box. And here is the target assistance strategies box. You want to make sure you click that at the top. And again, these are very similar portions of the plan in that we're going to use evidence-based strategies to improve the instruction of our students. In a school-wide school, you're kind of trying to elevate the instruction of the entire building. And in a targeted assistance school, you're going to be focused on that specific group that you identified in your comprehensive needs assessment and identification. So in a school-wide school, we're talking about the whole school. Target assistance, we're talking about that specific group that you have recognized. Okay, so strategies that provide a detailed, enriched, and accelerated curriculum to students, including subgroups to address their needs. The school provides multiple opportunities and evidence-based interventions for students in need and addresses the outcomes of the comprehensive needs assessment. So remember, when we talked about that comprehensive needs assessment, the use of our funds is going to align with that needs assessment. Timely, effective, and additional assistance is provided to students that are experiencing difficulty. This may include a long list of supports, including counseling, mental health programs, specialized instructional supports, mentoring services, etc. There are a few more requirements in this section. The school uses clear criteria and processes for student participation in a tiered model to prevent and address behavior problems and early intervention services. So you have a system to get kids help. That's what that portion's about. The school uses clear criteria and processes for making decisions. The school offers a range of extended learning opportunities within and beyond the school day, professional development activities, and the school uses clear, diverse strategies to recruit and retain effective teachers. So this is a comprehensive plan that encourages and lifts up, elevates that instruction in your building. And remember, the uses of your Title I funds should be indicated in this portion of your plan, and they should align with allowable uses in Title I, but also with those needs that you identified in the comprehensive needs assessment. So this portion of the plan is for you to talk about the strategies that you're implementing in your school to elevate the instruction in your school. And the different areas of requirement, like how are you ensuring that you identify kids that need help? How are you ensuring that teachers know how to teach the kind of kids that are in your building? How do you ensure that kids have additional opportunities for success? So each one of those areas, I would have just 1 to 2 sentences about how you're meeting that intent of SF funds, of Title I SF funds. Okay, so the targeted assistance portion, I'm going to stop just a second and read the chat. Okay, section. So, okay. Next one is targeted assistance plan strategies. Similar idea, only we're not elevating the instruction of the entire school. We're focused on that targeted group that you identified in that comprehensive needs assessment. So you are looking in this portion to look at those students and those specific needs. And then your programs and activities and your expenditures in Title I are going to align to meet the specific needs of those students. The other portion of this plan is very similar to the school-wide plan. So multiple opportunities, evidence-based interventions for students that are in need, timely, effective, and additional assistance is provided. You have a comprehensive and coherent evidence-based approach to meet students' needs. You have clear criteria and processes for student participation, and that professional development and other activities are offered to teachers. So the criteria is the same, the focus is a little bit different. Okay, are there any questions right now about the plan strategies? Okay, we are going to hop to this next section, that is just student transition. So remember, again, the checkbox is important. This student transition piece is only in targeted assistance. So because targeted assistance is focused on a specific group and those students are receiving a lot of additional extra assistance, usually there has to be a transition plan. So eligible students participate fully in core content and elective classes with additional instructional assistance under this part. Clear procedures are in place for students to visit the next grade level, meet the teachers, and learn new procedures. To receive new students, a school point of contact has been established, and staff members meet regularly in vertical teams to compare curriculum and plan strategies. So this is how we ensure that those services are transitioned from one grade level to the next. And that support continues to be able to be offered if that is the identified group in the site. Okay, so the next section is coordination and integration. I would say this portion of the plan is the same in Title I and targeted assistance. I would say that it is probably the most complicated portion of the school-wide plan. It trips people up. So if you are coordinating, braiding, or blending funds, this is the portion of the plan that you would identify that. Okay. So the criteria in this part is that you are leveraging your resources and your funding streams to meet the needs of your students, okay? And so even if you don't consolidate funds, which some of you do, but even if you don't, you are probably coordinating the activities to elevate the instruction in your school. So even if, let's say that the district offers through Title II funds additional professional development for all teachers, your site, your Title I site, is benefiting from that instruction, from that professional development. And so this would be a place where you would line out the coordination of funds for how you're using all the federal funds, all other funds to kind of elevate the instruction at your school as a whole. So there's a little chart at the bottom of this section where you would identify the funding source, especially with ESSER. I'm sure even if funds aren't allocated specifically to the site, that you are taking advantage at your site of some of those services. So on this portion, you could write down additional federal funds that you are taking advantage of at your site. If you've received specific grants for your site, this would be where you would outline all of that. Okay, so this is kind of the what other funds are you using? Are you coordinating, braiding, or blending in order to meet the needs of your students? The same portion is in the targeted assistance, and remember, it's the same intention. You're just a little bit more focused because you're talking about that specific group. Okay. The last portion, also the same in both plans, is that evaluation and plan revision. You should be looking and revising these plans on a regular basis. So you should be including families and community stakeholders in that process. You are monitoring and revising that school-wide or targeted assistance plan on a regular basis. We used to do this twice a year at my site. We did in the spring, we kind of planned for the fall, and then in the fall, we ensured that everything that we had planned was was still a need. Okay, so we did it twice a year, but your school leadership, including families and communities and instructional staff, need to regularly analyze interim and summative assessment data to evaluate instructional practices, determine patterns of student achievement growth, and changes in growth and gaps across classrooms, grade levels, and content. So this is the overall big picture. This is kind of tied with that needs assessment portion. Just how are you looking at how you're spending your funds? How are you identifying those needs? How are you ensuring that the way that you are investing those funds has the greatest impact for your students? Okay, that is the end of the school-wide and targeted assistance plan training. I know that is a lot of information to review very quickly, but for the most part, these plans are things that you're doing constantly, looking at data, evaluating how you're spending those funds, ensuring that what you're doing has the biggest impact for your students. So that is the intent and purpose behind these school-wide and targeted assistance plans. We have to get it on paper and kind of a little bit more explicitly in these plans. As a reminder, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, right now from 10 to 11, we are offering our training. So yesterday we did Title III EL, Title III Immigrant and Migrant. Tomorrow we will have Neglected, Delinquent, and Homeless. And Friday we will have Consolidated Administrative Costs, RLIS, and REAP. And then next week we will just be on the call to provide any additional assistance that you need. We have 3 minutes to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to come off mute. Let's get you some help if we can. Kathy Dunn has posted the federal programs, the COSA Federal Programs Consortium in the chat. And just as a reminder, if you would like to reach out, if you need assistance, please feel free. Also, your reviewer is always your first best resource to any issues that you're having with your applications or claims or questions that you have.